Hello, guys. Hello, Maria, Jessica, Anna, John, and Edward. Welcome to this class. I hope you're doing well. This is Francis Fermin, Group Learning on Point. And this is my teaching application. In today's lesson, we are going to be working on phrasal verbs. And the name of the book is Passages 1, Unit 8. Unit 8. The objective. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to use phrasal verbs in your daily conversation. So let's get started. Phrasal verbs. What is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb is made up of a main verb together with an adverb or a preposition or both. Typically, their meaning is not obvious from the meanings of the individual words themselves. So let me tell you, for example, she has always looked down. She has always looked down on me. So you can see the phrasal verb that is a verb plus a preposition, sometimes 1, 2, or 3 prepositions. And the meaning is to think that you are more important than someone else. So the example goes like this. She has always looked down on me. So she thinks that she is more important than me. Okay. So now we already know that a verb plus a particle, so to speak, we can say that a particle is a preposition or is an adverb. All right, prepositions like down, up, on, in, adverbs into, together, away, and so far. The first phrasal verb we have here is break down. Break by itself in a separate way has a different meaning. On the other hand, when you add a preposition, so the meaning of this verb is going to change completely. So the meaning of breakdown is stop working. So, when we talk about a machine or a vehicle, and the example goes like this. My car broke down on my way home. So my car stopped working. The next phrasal verb we have is look up to, which means admire and respect someone. We have someone to look up to in our lives. Okay, and the example goes like this. I always looked up to my grandfather. Now let's move on to look down on. To think that you are more important than someone else. Something that might be a little confusing, guys, is when we say look up to. The second preposition we are using in look up to is to, right? On the other hand, when we are using look down, the preposition is not to, but is on, which means you think that you are more important than somebody else. And the example is, he looks down on people who didn't go to college. So he thinks that he's more important because he went to college and other people didn't. Okay. So now, as we said before, what is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition or adverb, or also sometimes called a particle. A particle, yes. For example, we have the verb put. This is the verb, the main verb here used in the example, and of, which becomes the particle, all right, or the preposition or adverb here, changing the meaning of the verb completely. Example, I put off my trip, which means I postponed my trip. I decided to do this later, so I put it off or I postponed it. The particle looks like a preposition, but it does not function as a preposition. Example, he woke up at 6:30 a.m. Strangers woke him up. The verb and the particle have a special meaning. Okay, now let's move on to transitive and intransitive phrasal verbs. Okay, let's see. A transitive phrasal verb, for example, the object can come after the phrasal verb or between the verb and the particle. In other words, a transitive phrasal verb has an object, has an object, right? Example, at the last minute, the bride called off the wedding. Called off the wedding. So what is the object? The wedding. The wedding is the object here. So that's why we call this phrasal verb transitive. Transitive because it has an object that is the wedding in this example. Next example, at the last minute, the bride called the wedding off. What is what is the object in this sentence, in this statement? The wedding. So now the wedding is in the middle of the verb and the particle. So this is why we call this a transitive phrasal verb. Yes. Now let's move on to intransitive phrasal verbs. An intransitive phrasal verb does not have an object. Does not have an object. So the example, it goes like this. First, I worked out for an hour. I worked out. You can notice that we don't have an object after the phrasal verb worked out. First, I worked out what? No, nothing, because there is no object here. So that's why we call this intransitive phrasal verb. Then I dressed up and dropped in at the party. No object here, okay? No one found out that I didn't have an invitation. So now you know what an intransitive phrasal verb is and what a transitive verb is. Okay, now let's move on to separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. And the first one is phrasal verbs that are separable. Separable, so they can be separated from the verb sometimes. You know, in this case, we have the verb turn and the particle is off. So in the first example, you can see that it says here, turn off the computer. Turn off the computer. As we mentioned before, we are using an object when it's a transitive phrasal verb. So in this case, what is the object? What is the object? Oh, the computer, the computer. So we say turn off the computer, all right? But also we say that this is a separable phrasal verb because the object can be between the verb and the preposition and the particle, you see. So turn the computer off, and the meaning is not going to change here. Turn off the computer or turn the computer off. Okay, now I move on to inseparable phrasal verbs. So here, this time, an inseparable phrasal verb, the verb and the particle always go together. They go together, so they are inseparables because they always go together. You cannot separate the verb and the particle. She looked after the children. Now, when you're using the object pronoun, has to go at the end, since we already said that they are inseparable. So it's wrong if you said she looked them after. No, instead of that, you have to say she looked after them because they are inseparable. In this case, look after is inseparable. Inseparable, yes. And now, my dear students, I want you to do some homework for the next class, right? I hope you liked today's class, and I want you to do this for homework. Yes, put in the correct phrasal verbs. I have from 1 to 12. You have there from 1 to 12 to write the correct phrasal verb here. So I hope you will do your homework, and let me show you that you have some options here, you know, to choose from. Yeah, you have the phrasal verbs that you are going to be using. So I would like you to study, to learn about the meaning of these phrasal verbs, and then you can go back to the exercise and fill it out. So I hope to see you next time. So thank you very much, and God bless you all.